Call the October meeting of the Hardyville Planning Commission to order. Mr. Arzillo, would you lead us?
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us all here together, Lord, and thank you for this board doing what it does, and the members of the community that come here today, Lord. Let us work together today. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, before we get into the approval of the agenda, I want to make a statement for the record. Although we don't have a lot of members in the audience today, I don't know who's watching.
Turn your mic. Yeah.
We had an item on our agenda today to reconsider an item we tabled last month for the Hilton Head Lakes PDD. Since that time, the applicant has withdrawn the item, and so it is no longer on today's agenda. So if you saw it on the website, it may have still been there. So with that, do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I move we approve today's agenda.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, there is no old business at this point, so we go right.
We got minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. Old business, approval of the minutes from the September meeting. Mr. Foreman, do you have any comments?
I had submitted some corrections. Have they been made?
Unfortunately, sir, with the large amount of meetings and other things we've had, we haven't had a chance to redo them. We will certainly rework them, and if at all possible, you could table these till the next meeting, table the minutes until the next meeting. I think that's the most appropriate thing, because we would like to take into consideration all the changes.
All right, well,
I move that we table
no,
the,
yeah, hold on a second, Jeff. Mr. Talbot, do you have any changes you'd like to suggest?
Not at this point.
Mr. Arzillo?
No.
Okay. I had a couple which I put in writing to Ashley, and so she's aware of my comments. There's one thing I would like to bring up. I would like to add a short paragraph addendum to those minutes that puts on the record why we are meeting today, and, you know, where we had tabled the application and had suggested our December meeting, and then it got changed to today because there was an item of state law that we weren't aware of when we made that recommendation. So I just wanted to say something to the effect of that after the fact, we learned that tabling the application until December was not acceptable by state law, and by agreement, we moved the meeting to today. The fact that the applicant has pulled the application is not germane to correcting to adding to the minutes why we're meeting today and not our regular December meeting on this issue, so.
I think that is good. We'll have it, we'll add that addendum, and including the email that I sent out to you, Mr. Seipel, and Planning Commission, so that it's all explained, as well as it'll be on the record for today as well.
Because, you know, this may come up sometime in the future. I don't know when the applicant will come back, but it needs to be recorded so that there's an understanding from people who pick those up. So, all right, thank you for
We'll
that.
cross our Ts and dot our Is.
All right, so,
I have a question for you, Bronner. This is not the first time we've run into tabling and then having to back off on what we said. Is it possible that you can provide us with that section of the law that puts that 45 days into effect? Because I know the city attorney has an opinion, but I've read other things that say we can do that.
What we have in the works is, first, we're gonna make some changes to our recommendations to changes to the MZDO. We do have the difference in the 35 and the 45, and I did find yesterday, I was reading something entirely different, and I found the 45-day thing. It is on zoning changes, not IMPs. And so there was lots of different nuances and everything. But the city attorney and others, and we're gonna get together and make sure that everything's clear. We're gonna bring in a text amendment and make sure that it's most appropriate. First of all, we want those notifications taken care of the right way. And there are problems when you do push it out way early for the public hearing at council. We've learned that because things change. We are gonna make sure we're finding the most up-to-date and appropriate ways to handle this and make sure notifications are done efficiently and thoroughly.
Yeah, because it's confusing, at least to me. I mean, because Jeff asked, does the 45 days kick in? And we were told, no, blah, 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 excuse me, blah, blah, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden, we get an email saying, well, the city attorney has said that this and that.
Yes, sir.
So it's
I
very
was mistaken.
confusing
I was mistaken.
from our perspective.
I was mistaken. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of chatter in our ears behind us with the crowd.
Yeah.
There were things that you didn't hear. There were things that, a lot of things were going on, and I was mistaken. I got the 45 days and 30 days mixed up. Like I said, I couldn't find the 45 days when I looked. And now it's clear. We know what's going on. Luckily, we were able to fix that. We had a very nice public meeting with the applicant had a nice meeting, public meeting. And I think they learned a lot. So from that, we're going to move forward. So
All righty.
thank you.
Okay,
I move that we table the minutes till the next meeting.
second.
In favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, now to new business. We have consideration of an IMP for some parcels on the north end of Riverport, and that's before us today. And lo and behold, there it is.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this Riverport Commerce Phase 3 Initial Master Plan. Real brief with this. It includes a total of 628 acres, proposed multi-use business park and extension of Riverport Parkway to connect to the future Exit 3 interchange. You can see the setting here. It is just north of Phase 2 of the existing Riverport development. This is Phase 2 right here. Show you. So the PDD was originally approved in 2009 and most recently amended in late 2023. Phases 1 and 2 have approved initial master plans and are currently under development. And I wanted to note that Fire Station 84 is located in Phase 2, so this will be just north of that. The proposed master plan shows the configuration of the roadways and potential buildings, and open space here. This is, again, the extension of the parkway. And you can see the future Exit 3 right here. Sorry, Branna.
Katie, can I inject a question right now? Because this is a staff question. There is a parcel of property, I believe it's the Sherwood tract, that is north of today's application and actually goes up to Exit 3. So who's going to be responsible for the road through the Sherwood tract?
The Sherwood Tract Development.
They will build that
Oh,
road.
no, Branna. Oh, hold on. They'll connect to it, though.
The applicant can certainly, Riverport Parkway will continue up, and Riverport Parkway is being, it's a whole group of folks that are all involved with it, and the applicant can certainly explain all that to you. So, it's all part of the whole Exit 3 and making sure Riverport Parkway goes where it needs to go.
They will connect to that from their development.
All right, so some of the fees for Sherwood tract are set aside for this road?
Yeah, that's a whole different negotiation, and that's all been taken care of.
Yeah, okay.
So you have 3.82 million square feet of distribution warehouse and fabrication facilities proposed, 86,000 square feet of flex space, 140,000 square feet of commercial truck facilities, and 3.25 miles of four-lane divided parkway. Those are all included with this application. The transportation element of the comprehensive plan does recommend that the city review PDDs and document transportation responsibilities, as well as increase collaboration between city staff and SCDOT on transportation needs. We did begin this with the Riverport PDD and have continued through the initial master plan process. The applicant has worked closely with the city of Hardeeville, Jasper County, and SCDOT as part of an application to the State Infrastructure Bank for Exit 3 and related infrastructure. And the parkway extension is to be constructed as part of the application for local match. The city does recommend, based on the standards of the comprehensive plan and the Riverport PDD, that staff recommend approval of the initial master plan as proposed. And Lamar or Felipe, you come on up, Felipe. This is the laser.
Lisa?
Yeah.
The green?
Yeah, the green.
Hey, thank you, members of the commission, for having us today. My name is Felipe Toledo. I'm with Thomas and Haddon, and I'm representing the applicant with the Gremlin Brothers. So, to supplement a little bit of what Katie was talking about, this development, we'll start with traffic. So, the configuration of the parkway to serve all these properties inside this PDD are part of the traffic study that was commissioned for the interchange justification that analyzed all that corridor of 95. So all the traffic generated by these properties accounted there. So what you're seeing is a result of the recommendation of those studies, right? So a 4-lane divided highway will be built from the current section of Riverport Parkway that is near the fire station, and it will go all the way up to Exit 3. The regarding stormwater, this has been designed so the road is captured via pipes into ponds and treated that way. Same with all the development that's occurring here. It will go into the ponds and then discharged into the wetland outfalls. And all the storm design, it will be in conformance of state and local requirements and ordinances. As far as utilities goes, there will be a pump station located in the central area of phase 3 that will discharge into the existing pump station located at the end of the current Riverport Parkway. That will be a Buford Jasper owned and maintained pump station. There's capacity left over in this pump station that is enabling us to do this configuration. And from then on, it will be served by gravity to each one of these buildings. For the water, there is an existing 36-inch main that goes through all the current Persport Road and follows all the way back to the Hardeeville treatment plant. To that 36-inch, there's already built stab outs that we're using and coordinating with Buford Jasper to connect to and provide water for this area. Yep, I think that covers most of like the engineering kind of questions. If you have any other question, I'll happy to answer.
Mr. Foreman?
No, I think this is one of those unusual cases where it's exactly what we wanted, exactly where we wanted it. And, I have no questions.
Mr. Talbot?
No, no questions.
Mr. Arzillo?
I don't think there is, but are there any residences on the border of this project? I think that'll be a routine question from here on out.
So, so as far as the adjacent residents, it's what's the name of Coburn, and Michael, the developer, have been in communication with them as well, and there seems to be, Michael, is it fair to say, in support of this development? And there is also, just so you know, a PDD buffer around the property, and most of these areas adjacent back here will be kept as wetlands, right? For exception of some of the ponds that will be there, but all that provides some buffering and screening from that. But these are the current residents that live there.
These are homes. These are,
Sorry, good morning, Mr. Zillow. Yeah, there are a few homes out there. It's the Coburn family and some of their relatives. We did hold a a public information session meeting for Exit 3 and really for the 404 permit, I think 4 months ago, and members of the family were present, and they have seen this overall, not specifically this development plan, but they know the plans for the
I
entire
would sure
development.
like to talk to them. I think that's going to be very important for me to hear it from them, that they are satisfied with the discussions that you had with them.
The city has been in contact with them as well, and just to make, just to let you know.
Okay, I sure want to talk to them.
Yes, sir. Understood, especially given the last meeting. They
Yes,
are residents of
It'll
Jasper.
it only goes downhill from here.
Agreed. Which is why we, and clearly as a public notice requirement, we were sure to make sure they receive, well, we've certified receipts that these applications were sent out. They should have received those already. They are Jasper County residents, just to be clear about that part of it also. Very similar to the others.
But this is Hardyville, yes.
Riverport's Hardyville, there in
That's-
Jasper,
So it's still relevant.
correct.
You can understand.
100%
I don't
understand.
never want to go through this again.
We don't either. We welcome them. We want to be transparent about this, for sure. And I did want to mention Michael Harper with Grambling Development. Not to put him on the spot, just want to acknowledge he's here to help address it.
So tell me how they felt about it when y'all had the meeting with them.
Well, when they were at the public meeting, there were just general questions about the development plan, just understanding the timing of the entitlements for the property. I didn't receive any negative feedback from them.
And they were happy with the buffer zones that were offered
I
and,
mean, we discussed the fact that there's, this 50-foot PDD buffer around it. Other than that, I mean, just, I didn't.
so
get
I
any
want
specific
enough
questions.
notice to where I can talk to the residents with a big period. And it's well deserved. This is very important to me. Like I said, we don't want to have the same thing that we had in Red Dam. All right? So how can we make sure that we get notice for this kind of stuff? Because I don't want to take anybody's word for this.
Like I said, I know we've had members of the city staff have reached out to them as well. We talked to Mr. Harper from the beginning of this process. That was our first question too on this was there are residents out there that have been out there all alone for years and years and years. I think that because your recommendation here, I think you can make a condition on your recommendation that that we provide counsel and you guys with that. If you want to make it that way, there is not a formalized process. We do have the receipts from where they did send out the certified information to them, and that's the best we can do. But I think if you want to move forward with this, I think the best way to do it, because they did not show up, we haven't heard any comments from them, would be to make a recommendation to council to make sure that they're included in that conversation.
Would
Before.
it be possible and/or appropriate that we get a memo of understanding from them that they are aware of this development and that they have no,
I think it would be appropriate for city council to have that memorandum of understanding. I think because of the way it works, I can certainly ask you. You always have the right to table something, but as far as a memorandum of understanding, this is not a contractual matter for us to deal with.
so, okay, so we can put in our approval, disapproval, finding a recommendation that council get that, get a memorandum of understanding with the residents so that they have an opportunity to object or say, oh yeah, we're fine with this. We knew it was coming.
I think since that's where the public hearing, well, this is a public meeting and it is notified, But that is officially, according to where state law is, that's the public hearing, and that's where they do have with the development agreement and other things, they have more contractual obligations. I think that's the most appropriate way to do it.
Let me ask a question. If we were to recommend approval to the council, there'd be a workshop prior, right?
That is up to the council. It's not our choice. Council makes that decision. And, I would imagine with anything, especially if there's going to be concerns about public notification, that's something we can certainly,
That's
You
what
can
I was thinking.
recommend.
If there's a workshop, that would be an opportunity for those residents to come in.
council usually typically has the opportunity for a
Yeah,
workshop
I understand.
and 2 public hearings. So yes, sir.
That's a dilemma.
Anything else, Rick?
We need to know certain things before we make decisions. If we're making a decision that's important enough for us to be here, I want to make sure that there's a few things that we get so that we can make them. And knowing that the residents, I'm not saying I want to be fair to both sides, but I want to make sure that they get more than 1 day's notice. I want to make sure that they are here and that their voice is heard, and that there's a reasonable amount of effort taken to protect their property. And when I say that, I don't mean anything elaborate. I just need to make sure that it's fair.
I don't have,
What can we do?
under our setup, across the board, in any kind of zoning notification, we don't have that assurance. We put it out there, we put it on social media, we send out the certified letters is the best way, and we get the applicants, when they send those out, they send us back the receipts. I do know, like I mentioned, that there has been, per our city manager, there has been staff members that have more involvement with the county that have reached out to these folks as well. I don't have that. That's not an official thing I can give you.
Can we do this? 1 week before I sit up here, I know if any residences are impacted so that I can at least talk to them and make sure.
The way it works with these public hearings, and once again, I'm gonna go back to, I am not an attorney, but you are not supposed to have that ex parte communication with these folks before that. That is not supposed to happen. You're supposed to hear the case at the meeting with any comments that come through and make your recommendation to city council. That's how throughout the zoning world and everything, that's how it works.
Well,
Now,
they got
that's-
1 day's notice, 1 day's notice with that method.
We don't know that, sir. We don't know.
We do know that a week is what we were given, and then it had to go through the mail, and they got 1 day's notice.
And we do know that from the last time, people did get them before. A lot of people got them the day before, but a lot of people got them, or some people got them earlier than that. So I don't have that in concrete.
Rick,
so.
not to cut you off, but we're kind of off topic, and this is something that I think we want to talk about in the commissioner comment section at the end of the meeting. As far as this applicant is concerned, they say they have talked to the residents. I agree, and I believe we need to confirm that
Well, let me ask,
and have council confirm that, and we can make that recommendation.
were registered letters sent out prior to this meeting
Yes.
to those folks?
Absolutely.
And you got responses back?
We have
And they're not here today?
receipts Where they were sent, we don't have responses.
Well, but you got the receipts that they received them?
Correct. No,
No,
Did
they
not-
sent them.
Oh,
Sent receipt, not a received receipt.
so you don't know if they received them or not?
we have no way of confirming that, no, sir. Other than reaching out to them.
Now, we did took the extra step to deliver to the local mail office too, because it was during the hurricane season, that we were wondering if we were sending from Georgia, so we deliver it straight to the mail office.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of faith in the post office here. So when you send those letters out, it's not a return receipt requested with them?
I don't do certified mailings.
Well, no,
That's a good question.
okay.
Certified
If
Ashley,
receipt that it
do you
was
know
received
what,
and
we
sent.
just.
If I
we just get
send a
sent
letter
one.
to, let's say, my insurance company, I send a registered letter with a return receipt requested, so I know that they got it.
And that's what we're trying, as I mentioned before, we are trying to get this set up. They did everything by the way the ordinance is written right now. And I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm saying this is what we have. I understand the problems in the previous one. We've also made sure that through social media and through other things, we've got the word out to them today. And we're trying to be more vigilant about getting it until we can. But changing the ordinance can't happen instantaneously.
I understand.
So,
You know, I'm trying to be proactive for the applicant as well as questions from other commissioners. It's a dilemma.
I do believe, and I wouldn't say this, because I know I spent many hours since the last planning commission with the residences of the previous application, near the previous application, both the ones in the county and the ones in the city. Many hours, oftentimes outside of the office. I want people notified. I'm not trying to pull anything by anyone. But I do believe the cleanest, the most efficient way to do this is for you to put that, you can put it very adamantly to city council, because city council takes your recommendation to heart. And I know that they're very concerned about these notification processes as well. So I believe that's the best. It puts your feelings out there very well, and they get the final decision on the matter anyway.
The reason that I bring it up and the reason it's so adamant is so that everybody puts on their thinking cap.
Yes,
And
sir.
make sure that this never happens again. When
Agreed.
you know how I feel about it, and I hope that we are very careful in the future on respecting everybody that's being impacted. That would make me nothing but happy, and anything else is not, and who knows where we'll all be next year. But
These gentlemen know, the first question I asked, I think we had a Teams meeting, and that was the first question that we brought up, Katie and I, was, who is this, and have you talked to them? And so that conversation we knew was well, and they talked about the public meeting from a few months back, so.
And you have that in your review notes.
We have the
Rick,
Teams meeting, yes.
what, would you be happy if we recommended approval with a stipulation that the council get an MOU from those folks?
yes, absolutely.
All right.
And I appreciate you saying that you are concerned about those folks. It was an awful feeling when all of those folks, fine folks coming here that I know, and I didn't know why they were here. And I don't ever want to be in that situation again, not sitting up here. I got a lot of more information from them than I got anywhere else, and that's not the way it's
I
supposed to be.
completely agree, and I'm gonna go a little bit personal. I try not to do this, but to do it. I did talk with one of the families, and they've had problems with some of the utility easements and some other things as well, and my family has as well. And when you go through that, when you understand it, when you see it, it is very real, and we are trying to make sure that the ordinance is clear. As I mentioned, I found something yesterday that was in a totally different section, and we need to make sure that it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions, Rick? All right, Jeff, you good?
My questions are probably a little simpler. In the lower right-hand portion here, there is something called laydown area. What exactly is the laydown area? What's its function?
Kind of like a supporting truck terminal, like you can park some trucks there. Now, there's screening requirements that we have to follow that are put on the IMP that codify that required to meet it according to the MCDO. So all of that, if to where to use it finally for as a laydown yard, there's requirements that we have to follow in their review by.
Typical construction site, right? You have laydown areas if you're doing.
Right, so
tilt-up.
that's a temporary laydown area. It's not
Could be
something that,
temporary, or it could be a user of this warehouse say, hey, look, I need some extra parking area for my trucks. Can I use this area, right? And then work with the developer, and it will be properly fenced and screened.
And what staff asked during the review process was that they put in the screening requirements so that it's not visible from the right of way.
well, my thought wasn't so much of worrying about what it looked like from the road, because it's mostly truck traffic anyway. I kind of had an idea what you were talking about for laydown yard. What my concern is, if you're going to have a lot of trucks in there doing a lot of dripping and leaking that trucks do, what's the environmental protection that's going to be done there and in the rest of the property? You know, that we, you know, we've got all this truck traffic and stuff that leaks from trucks, especially when they sit for long periods of time. What kind of environmental protection do we do there?
Obviously, there's depending on the usage you use, right? You bring valid point there. Some equipment and machinery does leak, right? But as part of like when we go through the permit process, we have to evaluate that usage and understand, okay, what is the detriment to the stormwater quality? We provide those PMPs to treat some of that water quality. If they go in excess of that, then you have to put additional environmental PMPs. For example, if they have a mechanical shop, those have to have a proper, like all water separator and things prior to do the discharge, right? If it qualify environmental discharge, then there will be appropriate PMPs to treat that discharge.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions.
I had just a couple. I didn't find anywhere in the application where it told me how much wetland and upland there was in this section.
So I can speak to the open space, right? So the open space provided on this PDD is about 250 acres. That's represent roughly 49% of the total area. And in that breakdown, we have 72 acres of pure green space, 74 acres of wetland, 76 acres of buffers, and lagoons that represent 50%. That's total 25 acres. And you can find all that breakdown on the exhibits that are in the book. Like they have all that breakdown that I just mentioned.
I tried to add it up and it got a little too much for me. PDD allows buffers of 50 feet at the external boundaries. And I was really disappointed when I went down 17 and in the first phase, Lamar, you and I have talked about it.
Yes, sir.
There is a giantly tall building real close to 17. It meets the buffer requirements, but the scale of that building and the future buildings is such that I think we need bigger buffers to mask the physical size of these things. I mean, the scale is so much when they're 50 feet tall, they're really overwhelming. And I tried to take a tape measure to the plans. I think that in general, I think the closest one I found was about 100 feet to the road. But, and I forget which one it was, I can find it, but I would like to see a larger buffer, and I know you don't have to do it, because the PDD says what you have to do. But I would like to ask you to look at bigger buffers to mask, soften the bulk of these buildings. They are just monsters.
Are you referring to the fact of the visual from the roadway, right?
Yeah.
As you've seen on 17, which is the only situation we're going to have like this. This is obviously buried inside of the property.
Well,
And it's been contemplated, and I understand because that is a large building, but this is the corridor that has been identified by the city
Yeah, I know.
for growth and
I
business.
think it was
park. And
this
to keep in
guy.
mind, not to interrupt you, but one thing we didn't point out is the tremendous amount of buffering that has occurred along the wildlife refuge. And I
Sure.
realize that's not what you're asking.
Right.
I know you're not, but you have to understand there has been a lot of concessions given on top of what had been a prior sale to those guys for additional buffering. And meeting environmental constraints and pushing this development away. So we're sandwiched in between a very environmentally sensitive area, which we have gone above and beyond buffering. So we have to be able to utilize as much leading up into this area. And again, I ask that you at least take into consideration the fact that this whole area in Riverport since 2008 has been considered the business park corridor for this area, right? And you won't be able to see it from Highway 17, right? If you're in this area seeing these buildings, it's because you have business in this area, right? And it is a business park surrounding all of this. Now, clearly, as the uses move and it transitions up to exit 3, it becomes a commercial use, and then residential even north of that. So that's a different situation. You won't have to experience it.
Well, you know, I like you said, some of these buildings are a little closer to the road, but I think I didn't see anything closer than 100 when I measured.
True. I mean, yes, there's a certain amount of grading that has to occur. There's the road and the parkway itself, and in any of so there will be some type of green area between that and the edge of the building.
I just ask you to be sensitive to it. You don't have to by the PDD. So, and then Katie's already answered the question about who builds Riverport Parkway, and you say it's already covered by existing development agreements. So I'm okay there. Wastewater. I looked at, and maybe I misunderstood your wastewater drawing. Can we pop it up on the screen?
So, do you have that exhibit?
I don't have that, I have it hard copy, but
I
I
do
don't have
too.
it exhibit.
But can you explain your question?
Yeah.
All right.
I think we can walk over the.
I saw what I looked like, that you were going to be collecting wastewater in a series of gravity-fed structures that fed right into Beaufort Jasper's sewer line. And there was a section of 4-inch force main that I scratched my head on and say, what is this? It looks like the whole property is draining by gravity into Beaufort
Okay,
Jasper water.
Yeah, he did mention it earlier.
I can explain that. So, because of there's this pump station already being like designed to have a certain reach, right? There's an economy of, I guess, building and scale that you can basically serve these first properties with gravity, right? So, for example, if very quickly they start building here and they got some users here that want to move, we can enable the utilities very quick to them because we only have to build a certain section of gravity. From then on, you will have a force main that comes up to this pump station. That pump station branches out to cover all that area over there.
But-
That cannot be reached by gravity, because at some point you enter an area where it's not feasible to keep extending gravity.
But you had a series of structures along the road
Yep.
that it just, I thought that the whole system was draining by gravity into Beaufort Jasper's collector. That's not true.
Ultimately, it does. I mean, the ultimate terminal point of all that sewage will be in this pump station that then pumps into Highway 17 and then back up, right? So the first section, the first leg, is a gravity section that connects here around this point with the force main that discharges from this gravity, from this pump station that has a force main.
All right, so you're collecting the new Section 3 in a pump station, and you're gonna force it down to your existing station, which is then gonna force feed it to Highway 17.
Correct.
So you're flowing south.
Yeah, we're doing a scheme of what is called pumping and dumping, right? Because there's already at capacity on 17 for the Beaufort Jasper facilities. So the way we identify capacity on this pump station, so that enabled this area, right? So that's kind of like sending in a cascade effect, right?
All right. That's all I had. So, any follow-up questions?
I just have one comment. Mr. Lamar, on the buffers, in front of these great big buildings, all these warehouses, we've got all the warehouses together, and that's wonderful. I just say when you get near the residences, just concentrate on good buffers for that. But I do understand you're not gonna be able to cover up that building. And I agree with that wholeheartedly, that you're not gonna be able to do that, and you should, even, 200 foot of buffer wouldn't cover that building. But just when we get around the residencies, I would just like y'all to just be mindful to be careful around the existing residencies, on not just job, but also future jobs.
Sure. And Lee, for full transparency, won't you, like you mentioned earlier, you want to be clear and understanding.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you've got a newer house right here. I believe this was an existing one. This one was added. This is all the Coburn track. Like we mentioned, there's a 50-foot PDD buffer around this. There's nothing planned in this corner just because there's so many wetlands, and we've had to impose such a large preserve buffer.
On the
in addition
wildlife refuge.
well, for the wildlife refuge and other the constraints for the 404 permit. So this area, I don't want to mislead anybody to say it'll never be used. It may be a pond back here that's used for some type of borrow source for dirt to build this. But there's a fair amount of just natural screening that will occur. You'll have this big wetland and the preserve buffers. Right now, it's probably going to be a pond in this corner just because it's such a tight area to get into. Just financially doesn't make sense to build a building. So it's pretty well constrained. And there is, and we don't have a timing on this, but just to be clear, I don't know if just so it's not lost on anybody, this area right here is the proposed Dominion Energy transmission main. It's proposed, it's been negotiated since 2009 as a overhead electric transmission and underground gas transmission main to serve Sherwood, help tie into the system that will serve the city's business park. So it's just kind of a whole southern loop for Jasper County. So there will be some separation along this common property line because of this location of this line. And to be honest with you, like the location of where it was set, we have this bigger wetland, and we can't make application for Dominion Energy as far as any impacts for wetlands they have. They have to make those on their own. So we leave those as non-preserved, and they come back later. However, they have a threshold for how many they can actually typically apply for, and they try to keep it below a certain amount. So it just, as you can see, this wetland really narrows down to this narrow point right in this location here. So that therefore the location of the easement was pushed as far to the west as possible to minimize any impacts that they would have to deal with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just wanted you to understand the logic.
All right. Jeff, would you like to make a motion to approve with our comment on?
I move that the Planning Commission recommended City Council approval of this project with the prerequisite, recommendation that the developer supply a memorandum of understanding that the adjoining property owners do not oppose the project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Sorry to put you through the,
I understand sensitivity based on the.
You should be used to it.
I understand. Thank you. Yes. Good point. Sorry, just to clarify, that raised a good
public.
point. I know you just voted, but just as a clarification, the recommendation you're making is relative to immediately adjacent property owners. It's not a blanket for
Yeah, immediately.
anybody.
Only those immediately adjoining property.
That'd be captured in the minutes.
In
just
my
so
eyes,
it's-
it just needs to be reasonable. I wouldn't expect for them to come up with something super unreasonable and we say, well, we're just not going to approve.
And we realize this is a recommendation, and we understand why. Appreciate your.
Yes, sir.
Thank
thank you,
you.
gentlemen. We are now ready for the project manager's report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Just a few highlights since we last met. Last night we did have a public meeting for the findings for the 278 study that the city of Hardyville is conducting from Argent Boulevard out to Highway 17. So those findings were presented. It was recorded by our media staff, so if you missed it, you can watch that presentation. We had a really good turnout for that actually last night. The room was full. So we, of course, had the public meeting for the Hilton Head Lakes West PDD, which then it was withdrawn.
Can I stop you right there? there was this public meeting. It appears that nobody on the planning commission knew about it. Where was it announced? We all kind of missed it somehow.
It was the applicant's meeting, the applicant's responsibility from you, reached out to the public. It was not a city meeting.
Did they advertise it, or?
They sent out notifications and advertised it, yes, sir.
Oh,
We didn't get notified, we just knew
I
about
must
it.
have been under a rock because I didn't see it.
Who set the date for that meeting?
The developer and the, worked with the availability of room and space, and, as far as I know, they said,
So how would we know what the outcome of that meeting was?
the part of the presentation when it does come back was going to be an update for you on that and between them and the public. What they got out of that was they need to make some changes. They need to rethink some things. And that's why they withdrew their application.
I've got,
Because those meetings, I would think would be important to us, if we attend or not.
And
Because
once
we-
again, that's just something that is not a state requirement. That is not anything that we can put requirements on. But we can certainly request that in the future when they do have these public meetings.
someone had to approve them using the
Anybody can,
facility.
anybody can rent the facility. That they just call the
Okay, but
recreation.
some-
It was not, this was not a city
So
meeting.
saying the city didn't know,
No, I didn't say that. I said the city wasn't part of the notification process, sir. The city knew we were obviously there.
okay,
Let me square this up. Let me see if I can square this up. We recommended, because I recommended, that we have 1 to 2 meetings between the builder and the residences of Red Dam. That was the end of the discussion where my ears were available. Somebody set a meeting, and there was a meeting that took place. Now, we recommended that the meeting take place, so a meeting happened.
They should have notified
But
you.
we weren't notified of the meeting.
They should have notified you.
The homeowner that was in question, Mr. Tillman called me and said, "Richard, I'm just curious, were you notified of this meeting?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And he says, "Well, we're having a meeting on this date." And that's not.
We will make sure in the future, as I mentioned before, and we're trying to remedy all this. We're not trying to make it worse. We're certainly not defending the actions of anyone. What we're saying is, in the future, we can make it that they also include planning commission on those notifications. But this was an unusual situation, and I apologize, anything we had to do with it. We found out, we went, but it was not something that we were.
when you found out, how hard would it have been to send out an email to us saying, hey, guys,
The meeting that you requested is gonna be on this date.
And I do apologize. And that's all I can do. We had the hurricane, we had the storm, we had a number of things going on, and I apologize. But I can't fix that now. All I can do is fix it in the future. I do know that the intent of that meeting, and I was very happy to see Mr. Arzilla there, as well as the county administrator and some county council folks were there, and a number of people that I was very pleased to see. In the future, we can fix that. But the good thing is that they listened, and that application was withdrawn to be able to remedy that and fix it. They also assured us when we accepted the withdrawal, we assured that they were going to restart it from the very beginning, the notification process, and do it better. So that was one thing that we did make sure was going to happen. Every time we do this, we learn a little bit more, and I hope to keep learning. So, thank you.
I just think, I'm glad that they withdrew, and I'm glad they had the meeting. But my point, and Rick, I'm glad Rick was there, but he found out outside
Yeah, through the back door.
through the back door.
And once again, I apologize, but I can't fix that, sir. I cannot fix it at this point. I can do better.
But you can fix it going ahead.
That's what I said. I can do better next time. Absolutely.
We sure don't, my intention is not to offend anyone. And if it's a simple mistake, I make mistakes every day. I'm just trying to square up. I'm happy to know that it's a mistake. But if you were sitting in my brain, I often wonder why things happen the way they did. And so I feel relieved that you have straightened this matter out. Because I don't know how this board functions totally. I think it's important that it's here or we wouldn't be here, and I just want to make sure that we're all working together. And that's really all I want to say.
Okay.
I just have a couple of other items to note. Wendy's at exit 5 did open, so they have a brand new Wendy's at exit 5. That was a long time coming. There is a redevelopment project that will be taking place on White Hardy Boulevard, adjacent to the post office. It was on staff review committee today. We do have the proposed building elevations, which they are the first project to really reflect what we were asking for in our White Hardy Boulevard plan and our new transect zones. So we do have those available for viewing. They are not final because they have not been approved by staff review committee yet. We just had the first meeting this morning. But I think they are going in the right track. And then South Point infrastructure is on for second reading tomorrow. So that's all I have.
Where's South Point? Where is South Point? I can't keep them straight.
That's the one. That's the one that goes between 278, I-95, and John Smith
Smith.
Road. You did the road and infrastructure master
Yeah,
plan
yeah,
review.
okay.
Yep, second reading.
All right. I can't keep them straight, I'm sorry. All right, now we're down to Commissioner comment section. Jeff Foreman.
At our last meeting, we discussed the ongoing saga of the effort to try and get a joint meeting or a joint discussion between us, our planning commission, and the county, and requested that we take action on that. Has anything been done about that?
Absolutely. And I was going to include that, but I figured that I had said enough today. So we will be getting with Mr. Seipel. We met with the planning director for the Jasper County, and she is going to get her chair, and Mr. Seipel and Katie and I, we thought we'd all get together, have a little meeting, plan on an agenda. We're looking for early December. There was no way with our move in this building, because we are moving offices, and there was no way with the county's UHA area changes and ordinances that they had time. So we agreed that it would probably be early December, and we will meet and schedule that and make sure that it's has a very thorough and complete agenda.
Would
So
that be an evening meeting like we had before?
that to be determined. That
I would recommend that.
you would recommend.
I would recommend an evening meeting.
We will see what works best for everyone, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I'm really glad you're moving ahead with that. That's great.
Absolutely. As soon as we'd been exchanging phone calls and playing phone tag a little bit, and then we just happened to be in the same place at the same time, so it was perfect setting. We took a few minutes,
Great.
and did that.
I'm essentially away for the month of December, but I'm glad you're doing it, and I think it's a good project.
Well, that's just the setup meeting for the meeting. So there's nothing says it's gonna be in December, Jeff.
No, I think she's saying the meeting will be in December.
We're hoping for the meeting in early December, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah, no,
There's a lot of moving parts to it too.
That's true, because we got another Jeff that'll probably be in London a goodly chunk of December.
Leaving the 12th.
All right, anything else, Jeff? Steve?
Well, I'm glad to see you have service flags. That's a nice touch, but you're missing one,
Space Force?
Space Force.
Do they have a flag?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's a different area of the city. I will certainly pass that along and make sure that is noted.
And you should tell them they should add the Space Force flag and the POW/MIA.
Yes, sir. I'm on it.
No, it's a nice touch, really nice. I noticed that the temporary traffic lights at Riverton and Sun City are up and working.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, not the one at Sun City.
yeah. Well, yeah,
East Sergeant Parkway.
yeah. I didn't notice them. I was told, very politely, you ran a red,
I use them every day.
you ran a red light.
Oh, you were telling me.
Yeah, well, Sun City doesn't have theirs yet, but New River has theirs, and it's really helpful.
It is.
Yeah, it
Once-
made a big difference
Once you
in
know
that
they're there.
Oops. All right, Rick, anything?
No, sir.
Jeff?
I have probably more of a question. I saw an article this morning about the State Infrastructure Bank and funding for some of the projects. And apparently there's shortfalls or projects are costing more than they've been funded for. And Exit 3 was some big millions of dollars short in the infrastructure bank funding. And I'm wondering, do you have any idea how that's being taken care of?
I wish we'd asked when Michael and Lamar were still here, because they certainly work on that a lot. From my understanding, and I will certainly get Mr. Davis or someone to provide a report to you on all of that. Yes, there's always been shortfalls across the board. In this situation, and one thing that we've been pushing since the beginning of time with Exit 3 is that the developer is funding a tremendous amount of it. And they are, from my understanding, making up for those shortfalls, and we are well on our way to Exit 3 happening. So, I will get that defined, and I'll get Mr. Davis to provide us.
Yeah, I was surprised how many projects statewide were underfunded.
I think
that
that's
are
what-
actually in progress, you know,
I
and
think
then this
that's-
one, concerned me because it hasn't even started yet.
The danger of the State Infrastructure Board and the way it's set up, from my understanding, it is not a complete funding source. And so that's why we are very lucky to have Stratford and Grambling Brothers and all of those involved in this project.
Okay. That's all I had.
All right, the only thing I have was kind of a follow-up on a comment that we made last month about changing the MZDO concerning notifications to impacted property owners, but I think you're working on that one. So I'm happy about that one. Other than that, I had nothing else. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Second? All right, in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.